Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. And welcome this week to a very different poetry news with me and Arsene. How's it going, Arsene? You well?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, really well, thanks. The sun's shining, was in town earlier. Yeah, pretty good.
Nice. I'm loving the weather. It's sun. I'm using all sunlight right now. I don't have any lights on. It's great. It's perfect.
You know, can you almost like feel the sun vitamins almost like coming into you? It's like you feel so starved of it for so long, and it's just kind of like you're sort of walking around the shadows just to maximize it.
Right? It's like energy. Give me the energy. Yes. I'm alive.
So so nice, isn't it? So yeah, absolutely. This is a good time for the Northern Hemisphere. Absolutely. So we have a lot of interesting stuff coming up on the show today. And what we're going to be doing this week, this is much more a conversation between just Arsene and myself. So
Mhm.
we hope that you're looking forward to that. And we have a lot of interesting stuff coming up that we hope you'll find interesting too. So please join in the conversation yourselves. We love making friends here, as Arsene likes to say. So, first up this week, we'd like to talk about a really important zine by pretty much a brand new UK indie press, and that is Bent Key Publishing, who started on the 1st of October 2021 after its founder, Rebecca Kenny, was in a car accident, and thankfully, she's all okay. Bent Key is named after Rebecca's front door key after the incident, and they've already started producing some very unique and important publications, specifically Bloody Hell, which is a poetry zine all about periods and menstruation. And I'm going to quote the zine's description directly from their website, and they say it's written by and for anybody with lived experience of periods and is produced with the intention of raising awareness of period related conditions and period poverty. This is a not for profit publication, and all proceeds from sales go to period charities. And it costs £5 and is available now from their website. They also have an open submission until the 30th of April on the theme of it's called a vulva, Jeff, and is described as a collection of poems that explores the reluctance in our society to use the word vulva instead of lumping it in with the vagina and treating it as an afterthought, inspired by Holly McNish's recent campaign to stop people from misnaming genitals. And they welcome poems by anybody, I quote, who say currently owns or has owned a vulva. Now, obviously, this isn't a topic I'm an expert in, but I do understand it's a topic that's really important. You know, the more we talk about and normalize these things, the easier it is going to be for other people to talk about it and for people's health in general. So, massive thank you to Rebecca for curating such an important and interesting idea. And it's all on bentkeypublishing.co.uk. Arsene, what do you think about this?
I love this. Like I was saying to somebody. I think it was to you before prior, but I don't know a lot of poetry that actually directly deals with this, and I think just in general, the idea of menstruation, women's genital organs in general, genitals in general, I meant to say, um, is looked at as kind of like weirded out and taboo. Where, but like at the same time, these are the same organs that create life and like why we all are here. And at the same time, you hear about like men's organs all the time. We hear about dicks all the time, right? Like fetuses all the time. I curse, I shouldn't have done that. But anyway, so I really, really appreciate this particular zine because it helps normalize it. And I think that we've been seeing a lot of movement towards this in the past couple of years where women are trying to normalize the idea of menstruation. It's a thing that happens. It's a thing that shows, like it's just a part of life. It's science, it's nature. It's a thing that happens. So I'm glad. I'm glad this exists, honestly.
Well, it's so true, isn't it? And it's like there's what 8 billion, 9 billion people in the world, something like that. And a good 4.5 billion of those people have these organs where there's still this sense of taboo. And it's so true what you say, isn't it? It's kind of there isn't that sense of taboo about a penis. I mean, you could probably buy a book 400 pages thick just of penis jokes, for example. You know, it's so that there isn't that tabooness, there isn't that sort of worry and concern almost of talking about it that a lot of people seem to have. And I'd say I don't know what you think about this, Arsene, as well, but I know I remember having a conversation with another poet about endometriosis. And again, this is a medical condition I'd not even heard of until a couple of years ago. So this is another example of another example of something where there just hasn't been a conversation. It also makes me wonder how many other things out there like this are there.
I agree. There's so many. Endometriosis is a serious condition that can be pretty like traumatic and tragic to a woman's life. So like, yeah, and I don't know why it's not spoken of enough. There's also like, HPV, PCOS. HPV actually affects both males and females, but mostly females. And it could be crazy. Like, firstly, I'll give you a personal story. Like I had HPV for a while, and there was a time where, because of HPV and then growing back, I had a growth formation, right? And that could have led to me having a hysterectomy if it had come back out cancerous. So I don't know why it's not spoken of enough, because if I knew how to take care of it, or if I had any idea what it was, or if I got my vaccine prior, maybe things could have been different for me, right? I wouldn't even have to go through the surgery or the scare. And there are so many women like that who don't know, and they actually have to get a hysterectomy, or like, there's so many women who can't have children because of endometriosis or PCOS or things like that. So I think it's important to talk about these things. And then even still, there are women who can't get like pads and tampons because periods are looked at as like taboo in their country, in their town, and that too in itself is crazy. So I there's so much I don't get it, but also I get it. It's uncomfortable to talk about unless you yourself or someone who goes through it, which is why I think that it's important, like zines like this that are led by women talk about it.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I just completely agree with all of that. And again, you've mentioned the names of conditions that I've not heard of before. And again, this is something I want to go away and look up after we've done this show recording. And I think, it's true. Things often feel difficult to talk about when we first talk about them, but the more we talk about them, they get easier. And there's a lot of things that I now find easy to talk about that I used to find very difficult to. Mm-hmm. And the same can also be true of this. So thank you, Rebecca, for curating this. And I would say, if you qualify to submit to these, please do. And whether you qualify or whether you don't, give it a read, because you'll either get affirmation, validation, and support for something, or you'll learn something. So it's a win-win in that sense, and charitable. So thank you, Arsene. And we will be back right after this.
Welcome, and we are back. And we're going to go a little bit, I guess you could say, off topic, as in off topic publishing, having a poetry workshop on April 2nd. And this workshop is amazing and free 99. So I'm already hooked, right? You know me and my free 99. But this workshop is a 5-hour long workshop that is in honor of National Poetry Month. So you get a jam-packed National Poetry Month honored poetry workshop with everything you could possibly ever need as a poet. So National Poetry Month is coming up in April. So everyone, woo, yes, who's excited? I am. Okay, I'm gonna chill now. So this is a one-day series of online poetry workshops, free or by donation, and it starts at 6 p.m. Central Eastern European Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, not specific as I say, which I don't know why I say that all the time, but anyway. So there's there's 5 different courses for you in the 5 hours. The first one being in focus, 5 techniques to build tenacity to write a poem a day for National Poetry Month, which I think would be cool as a poet or somebody who wanted to dive in to try and to do a poem a day for the whole month. In this workshop, it's led by Sushmita Paul, and in this workshop, one learns about 5 techniques to increase tenacity when participating in a long-term poetry writing project, like a poem a day for National Poetry Month. It includes how the body and mind write together, where to find inspiration, and how to tap into the power of the subconscious, which I'm already interested in because I've been going through a little bit of writer's block. So I'd like to know if I can find other ways to get inspiration myself. There's a look at list poems led by Padmaja Bhatani. This workshop intends to discuss list poems, their characteristics and pitfalls. Activities include looking at a few list poems that they demonstrate, right? Objectives of the workshop include history, form, and use of list poems, possible pitfalls of list poems, study sample list poems, and creating a list poem itself. And then there's also, this is for my future authors out there, there's also a course on how to publish your poetry into literary magazines. This workshop is led by Ivanka Fear, but she's telling you not to have fear, because this workshop will lead poets who are new to traditional publishing through the process of getting their work into literary magazines and journals. And in the topics that are included, you get finding literary journal magazines, submitting your poetry, tracking your submissions, next steps, etc., and to publishing your articles. And there's 2 more, I swear. I know this is a very long and lengthy course, but think about how much you're getting here, right? Then Nathan Waito will take you through the words we choose, which is, as poets, the words we choose are everything, right? They are our life, they are our work. They have power and can inform everything we write. So what words do you choose is basically what he's asking you in this particular workshop, and it will explore all the ways to choose the right words for each of us for whatever you were trying to get through. And then finally is the making of a poetry chapbook led by Marian Loweed and Jennifer Mariani. I'm so sorry if I just butchered that last name. I definitely did. But what goes into creating a poetry chapbook, right? What does the process look like? What kind of dialogue? All these things, all the fun that goes into chapbooking is going to be led and described to you by Marian Lloyd, who is an actual editor, and Jennifer Mariani, who is an author herself. And yeah, and Jennifer will also tell you about her publishing her own chapbook, All Forgotten Now. So if you want to go ahead and sign up for this, there is a Facebook link which takes you to an Eventbrite link, and there is a form where you can ask them questions on here. That's a Google form for any of those workshops. I believe it's mostly for Marian and Jennifer's workshops, so definitely go ahead and check that out. I think this is a huge workshop. So much stuff. Oh wow, what do you think?
Well, isn't it just? And it's like you say, it's 5 workshops for the price of 1, but it's actually for the price of none because it's free.
Mm-hmm.
So even better, you're getting 5 workshops for the price of nothing, the cost of a free Zoom account. But I think there's a really interesting flow to this series of workshops. So yes, it's 5 workshops in 5 hours, but there's a build up to it. Going from, looking at the order here, going from techniques to build tenacity to write a poem a day. So it's getting you writing and consistently writing.
Mm-hmm.
It's introducing you to things like list poems, for example. It's introducing you to how to get poems into literary magazines. The words we choose is kind of like editing, and then obviously a chapbook tends to come a bit later in someone's sort of poetry journey. So it's almost like, okay, let's get you writing, let's get you looking at different forms of writing, let's get you some exposure, let's get you editing, and then let's get you published. it's almost following that journey that a lot of poets are trying to take. So I think it's great, and the fact you've got that Google form as well, where you can ask questions. It's something where it feels like the facilitators aren't just going to come along and tell you stuff. They'll be changing and editing and adjusting around what they're going to be doing to fit the needs of the people that are submitting and coming along to it. So you're getting even more value as a result of that. And so I'd not heard of this organization before, Off Topic Publishing, but they sound great. It's got me, like I can't make that particular one, but they've got me really interested in the other stuff that they do, because if they're doing things like this, what other cool stuff are they doing?
I agree. I feel like they're just finding ways to set you up for success, which I feel like we need more guidance in this community that way, because I don't know, for me personally, as a, I guess, a newer poet, even though I have published a book, I feel like oftentimes but literary journals are something that I'm trying to get into, and I feel like oftentimes I don't know what I'm doing. So if I had, and there's like so many different options and routes, and I don't know which one's actually a trustworthy route or which one's an actual route that I should advice that I should take or whatever. So at workshops like this, for me, I feel are very important, because like I'm getting it straight from experts of the sources, right? So it's like I know that I can trust these people. I know that the information they're going to give me is absolutely going to help me, and these are people who work in the particular workshop field that they're trying to talk about, right? So you're getting like the prime gold information. So I really appreciate this workshop for that. And it's like 5 hours of just important information to succeed. So hello.
Well, this is it, isn't it? It's like these people clearly know their stuff. They clearly know exactly what they're doing, because they've been there, they've done it, and they've worn the t-shirt. Because it's very easy to make mistakes when you're not so sure of what you're doing. And I will say, a little revelation for viewers of the Poetry News: I have never got an acceptance from a literary journal, with the exception of, so local journals, yes, where I've known the people. But if I haven't known the editor of a journal, I've never got an acceptance out of any submission. And there's got to be a reason for that. There's got to be a reason why some poems get accepted and some don't. And that this can help with that.
And it's the same with me. Like I started submitting stuff. I keep getting rejected, but I get a lot of, hey, your piece resonated with us, but it's not what we were looking for, which I don't know what that means. Like, what are you looking for?
It's a bizarre one, isn't it? It's almost like, my best guess on that would be we liked it, but we didn't like it quite as much as some of the others.
Yeah, which is like fine. I get it. Yeah. I have room for improvement. Just tell me how, though.
Yeah. This is the thing, we don't know, do we? And something like this can really help you and show you.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much for talking about this with me. So people, my friends, all of you, please go ahead and check that workshop out, especially if you're like intimidated by any of the things that I just talked about, because publishing and literary journals, yeah, they could be intimidating. So definitely go ahead and check that out and see how that might help you. And even if you're just trying to jump into poetry, this is definitely the way to start. So go ahead and check that out. We will be back right after this break with me again. Haha. And Martin, of course. And we are back. Hello. And I have for you a very, very, very cool open mic. This one is Cryptic by Spread the Word. And it's the writer's salon for D/deaf and disabled writers. It is the salon aims to support and promote underrepresented writers and be an inclusive space where D deaf. I'm just saying the D/deaf part because to be safe, D/deaf and disabled writers can be part of a community, learn, have fun, and share their work. It's on 11th of April, that's a Monday, at 5:30 to 8 p.m. UK time. And the salon has a workshop run by Inigo Purcell, followed by a reading and Q&A with Betty Doyle, and an opportunity for participants to take part in an open mic afterwards. So five participants, 5-minute slots will be available. The salon is open to D-deaf and disabled writers writing in any genre, new or more experienced, and is hosted by Jamie Hale. For each salon event, you can book a ticket to the workshop or the reading or both on the Eventbrite link that should be somewhere over here. If you'd like to be considered for an open mic slot, please book a ticket to the reading event, and they'll email you with an open mic sign up 2.5 weeks prior to when the event. So like if you do it now, you'll get it now basically, and it is free to attend. So basically they split it up this way. So 5:30 to 6:30 is the workshop by Inigo, and then 7 to 8 is the reading and the open mic with Betty Doyle and Jamie. It's a Zoom event. Sessions will be BSL interpreted by Michelle Wood and Lynn Bateman, and they'll also be auto captioned. And it's a very, very relaxed space. People are given regular breaks and are able to take additional breaks as needed, which perfect. And the open mic participants and guest readers will be asked to self-describe when introducing themselves. Any images used at the salon will be described, and open mic participants will be asked to describe any slides or images used in their work. And they do say they can't guarantee there won't be any triggers. And they'll request people participating in the open mic slots to flag the content that is likely to trigger. So go ahead and there's so much more information that they have on the Eventbrite link. So go ahead and take a look at that. They have frequently asked questions, all that jazz. So I just thought this was such a cool event because there should be more inclusive events. And what do you think, Martin? How do you feel about this?
Well, isn't this absolutely brilliant? Because when we were talking about this offline before we started the recording, I mentioned to Arsene that this raises questions that I'd not thought about that much previously, or not thought about enough. And a lot of the things that we present on this show, they give me that thing of, oh, I never thought about that, or why did I never think about that? Certainly before the pandemic began, certainly in Nottingham, a lot of the open mic spaces, it was very much come here of an evening, and you'd walk into a pub, and then you'd walk up the stairs to the function room of the pub, and things like that, and never particularly thought about it, which that's a learning point for me. And there are a lot of people with disabilities who absolutely love the whole Zoom workshop, Zoom open mic scene, because it's so incredibly more accessible, and there's so much more visibility of a lot of disabilities in the poetry scene now as a result of the Zoom explosion and the Instagram explosion and things like that. Because there's a lot of, some barriers are visible, like for example stairs for a wheelchair when there's no lift.
Mm-hmm.
Some barriers are visible, some barriers aren't visible, and if you're not someone who experiences those barriers yourself, then there's a tendency to not think about them. And seeing workshops like this, first of all, it would be amazing to go along and hear the voices of people, people who have these disabilities, but also it makes you think. So, when I'm organizing events, when I learn on things, I think, oh, so add to my list. I need to think about this now. I need to think about that now. Add it to my list of things to consider. But for this workshop specifically, the fact that there's sign language, the fact that there's captioning, the fact that there's extra breaks, even the time is scheduled to not be so late in the day, and things like that. And I just think it's it's great. It's more accessibility, it's more inclusivity, and the more we can do that for the more groups we can do that for, power to it. Fantastic.
I agree. This made me actually think that, because I always talk about mental health, I wished also things like this existed more for people who struggle with mental health, concerns that don't allow them to get out of the house, like agoraphobia or any severe depression, who also have that creative streak but don't know how to get an outlet out there. I wish there was more like that. I bet you there is. I bet I'm gonna look into it and cover it maybe probably in the news, but. I just love this. I just love this. I wish I had seen this earlier. I mean, this came up, and it seems to be a monthly thing. So definitely go ahead, and if that's something that is interesting to you and you can participate in, I would highly encourage it, and definitely get the word out. Spread the word is what I was trying to say. Get the word out. Oh my God, Vaughn, you have so much editing to do of what I'm saying. but yeah, definitely spread the word. And thank you so much, Martin, for your input. I agree. This is definitely one of those events that made me think as well. And yeah, we'll be back after this break. Stay tuned.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Poetry News, and a really interesting article that we found published in the NME on the 26th of March called Tupac's Childhood Poetry Book is Going Up for Auction. This refers to Tupac Shakur, who wrote, when he was 11 years old, a booklet of haikus and also illustrated them as well. Now, this is something that is previously unpublished, and people can bid on this at auction until the end of March the 30th. And quoting from the article, it says, Sotheby's describe it as an unpublished book of haikus written and illustrated by Tupac Shakur when he was just 11 years old, an offer from his godfather Jamal Joseph, a Black Panther activist who was gifted the booklet by Tupac 40 years ago while incarcerated with fellow Panthers at Leavenworth Prison. And in the article, there's also a video of Joseph discussing the poems below. However, this is one part of a wider Tupac collection that's on offer. The collection also includes a selection of love letters written by Tupac to a cherished sweetheart when he was 17, so before his career began. Also includes Chuck D's original tour-worn Silver Raiders starter jacket, the original concept art for the Beastie Boys, Licensed to Ill, and a load of other stuff besides. The book itself is expected to fetch around $300,000, which is around £227,000. Because, obviously we, if someone mentions Tupac, you don't automatically think of a book of haiku, but, Tupac was incredibly talented. And so this article is on nme.com, and the link is below. We strongly recommend you to check it out. And if you're a massive Tupac fan with a few $100,000 going spare, feel free to make a bid on it as well. Arsene, what do you think about this? You a Tupac fan? Did you ever think of Tupac as a haiku writer? What do you think?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be banned from New York for saying this, but yeah, Pac is awesome. And so was Biggie. So please, no one cancel me. But no. I'm not at all surprised, actually, that Tupac used to write, because his lyricism in itself to this day has become like courses that people study because it was so intricate and deep. So I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised that he probably wrote to his lovers. I'm like they're saying here that I'm not surprised that they have letters for. He's not being none of his stuff is being auctioned because yeah, not yet. but like I was saying, I'm not at all surprised that he was such an in-depth writer, because when he expressed himself in his lyrics, he was so deep and he did it so well that people still study it today. And I'm also super stoked by the fact that You can get Bismarcky's fur coat and hat at this auction if you wanted to. And everyone knows Bismarcky, right? The oh baby, you got what I need. Yeah, yeah. I'm never gonna sing again, but you know. It's pretty cool. This is like I would like to just go there just to like relive my childhood. The auction in itself is like an ode to my childhood and all the like iconic hip hop artists that came up then that made me love hip hop, and then to see that Tupac, yeah, I'm just stoked. But at the same time, I wonder if Tupac would be feeling awkward about his like childhood poems coming out like after his death, and his letters that he met from one person coming out publicly. I wonder how he would feel about it if he were still alive today.
Well, it's like it's an interesting point, isn't it? Because obviously, it doesn't sound like Tupac would have specifically consented to the idea of this being auctioned, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's something in the book that does. I don't know, but I think so. I traditionally haven't been a massive Tupac fan. I mean, who'd have thought? Who'd have thought someone like me, growing up in a little leafy village in the south of England, wouldn't have got massively into Tupac as a teenager? But I'm going to go away and revisit some of Tupac's stuff, because there's other contemporaries from the time that I've listened back to and got much more into later on in life, sort of thing. And I feel like Tupac very much could be one of those. It's exactly like you say, Arsene, just the intricacy in the words and the lyrics and the message, and also a lot of the importance of the message in a lot of what Tupac was saying. And there's a reason. I mean, I didn't know Tupac was studied and the words were studied, but there's a reason for that. And these things in many ways add to the legacy. It's like, what was Tupac writing when he was 11? What I'd love to see some of these haikus, because I bet they're awesome haikus, even though he was only 11 at the time. But there are some people who at 11 years old are better writers than anyone could ever be at any point in their lives. And I sometimes you see people and it's like, you were doing that at that age, and it's a testament to them why they're so good and revered later on in life. So it's if you're anywhere near Sotheby's, which I think is in London, do go check it out. And like I say, if you've got a few $100,000 spare and you fancy a bit of Tupac merch, then do check it out.
So wish I did. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us on another wonderful and exciting and kind of different episode of PGN. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you guys had some comments to leave for us down below, Facebook, etc. Martin, take it away. The social medias.
Definitely. So you can find us on YouTube at Poetry Global Network. We are also on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok at the PGN Official. This isn't a one-way conversation just between ourselves. This is a two-way conversation between us and you. We'd love to know what you think about everything we've talked about and more. We'd also, if you've got an interesting news article or a submission or a workshop or a book or something like that, we'd love to hear from you. Please do put it in the chat. Let's get a conversation going. This is how poetry spreads. This is how artists get empowered. So we read every comment. We would love to know what you think.
Yes, definitely.
So we'll be back every Tuesday at 7 p.m. and we will see you next time. Have a great week and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Bye. Her. Oh my God. Her. Yes.
All right. Take two. Yeah. For the next segment, we'll just pretend to be the others.
That's brilliant. I love it.
Mm.
All right.